Alright, welcome back. Today we're gonna see if these bushings work for these forks. So yeah, you might see in another video I put springs in here, but they're a little bit squishy. I ordered them off Amazon. These are, I think, 90A or something like that. Most of the vintage forks, Rock Shocks, stuff like that, they used to run, I think, between 60 and 80. So we'll see if these are too hard, but either way, I just got these cheap off Amazon, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So this is what the forks are like with the springs. You can see they ended up getting pretty squeaky, and yeah, they're super soft. I think I can actually just bottom them out just by pressing really hard, so definitely too soft for me. And then yeah, just chucking it on the stand. I want to do it so I can just do it quickly, and I think I might be able to keep the forks on the bike without taking it out of the head tube. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Sometimes, depending on what forks you have, it might be easier just to take the whole fork off, but I'm hoping I can just slide these in and out. And then here, a little tip, when the wheel can't come out, just let out some air and you should be sweet. Or you can, yeah, just undo the cable properly. There's the wheel. Here, yeah, I ended up undoing the cable because I was planning to take the lowers off and I can't have the cable connected. Here, taking the little caps off. It was also quite cold today, so I think maybe all the plastic kind of hardened up. So it was a little tougher than usual, not quite as soft. But yeah, I just used a little kind of pocket knife thing just to wedge it out. And then here's the tool that I'll need. You can see I'm using the extender, and then I got 2 extenders for this pack, so I'm going to use both of them. And if I remember right, it's this size. I think it's a 6. I think the other one's smaller. I think this one is maybe that's a 5. But yeah, basically do the bigger one. You can kind of tell usually what size it is by what it's used for. So being a fork, it would be a bigger bolt because it needs to be stronger. It wouldn't be the smaller one. So yeah, that's an easy way to tell, or have a good guess. Just watch, I'll put it in and it'll be the wrong size. Turns out it was the right size after all. But you can see here what happened. I dropped the tool in, so I didn't realize it was too short. So to get it out, if you run into this problem, basically just compress the forks, and then I used the tool to get it back out. And then I realized I used this little corner extension bit just to get a bit more length from last time, and yeah, that seemed to do the job. You can see to get it in, you kind of just gotta put it in the center as much as possible and then just turn it until it drops in. And then yeah, you can, if you get a good feel for it, you should be able to do it. And basically I just undid both sides. You just undo it with the tool, and then once you get to a point, you just use your finger to undo the rest of the way. I had to be careful because I put springs in and it could kind of like pop out, but there wasn't too much pressure on the spring, so it was fine. But yeah, you can see I could start pulling it out by then. And yeah, it seemed to come out without undoing each of the legs, so I was pretty happy with that. I could kind of just like push on it and it'd pop out. Just like that. You can see the bolts inside, they've kind of all dried up. I did use silicone grease previously, but yeah, it must have got some air in there somewhere. And then to take these seals off, I decided to heat it up a bit first, just because it was so cold today. And that definitely helped a lot. You can see these seals have seen better days, but yeah, they'll do for what I need them for. And then taking out the old springs, you can see the springs also have kind of like dried. Yeah, I'm surprised the silicone grease dried out like that. Must have some reaction with the metal, maybe. Not quite too sure. And then here are the bushings. It came in a 2-pack, so I thought I'd have enough to kind of fill out the fork. And you can see here it was looking quite short at this point. I just did 4 on each side, which is what I had. But you can see when I measure it here, it's only about 55, where the previous fork, when I took it apart, the original spec was 76. So yeah, missing about 20 mil there. But I ended up finding some old skate bushings off some trucks, so I could use those, which is pretty lucky. And when I stacked it up, it ended up being around 78, which was, I think, pretty perfect. I'm not sure on the duro on these old ones, but I think they're slightly softer than the blue ones. And then one of the issues I had was if I dropped them in, I wanted to make sure I'd be able to push the bolt through. But you can see even when I put the bushing on one side, the bolt will still go through. So that's pretty good. The hole is a M10, if anyone's wondering. And yeah, this is kind of just how I stacked it up. No real correct way to stack it up. I just kind of freestyled it. I put the two old ones on either end. Hopefully it helps with the dampening. And then when I was putting them in, they kept kind of rotating because they're slightly smaller. So I had to work out a way to put it in where they sit flush. I ended up using this really long screwdriver I had and just kind of skewering them on. Yeah, just like a kebab. And then I could, slowly kind of push the screwdriver all the way to the end and have them drop in without them rotating or turning. Yeah, so these are some of the little things I had to think about before putting the forks back on. Otherwise, you don't want to be messing around with them after you put the seals and stuff back on, trying to get the bushings lined up. Could be a hassle. And I did the same on the other side here. And that worked pretty well. And then all I have to do now is remember just to keep them up right this way so they don't fall out. And I push all the seals and all the little uniplastic bits back. And then just to make it go in a little bit easier, I end up putting a bit of silicone grease on the bolts there and then on the end of the leg, just to help it and protect it a little bit. There was already silicone grease on the inside of the seals, so it seemed to work. And yeah, it was a little bit tight, but it ended up going on pretty well. Just pressing down the seals there. And yeah, it went in. And then after that was just basically tightening up the bolts again. With tightening up the bolts, you don't have to do them super tight because you don't want to strip them or anything. So I just do it up until finger tight, and then you just wind it with a bit of pressure until it doesn't go anymore, which is, I think, between 8 and 10 Newton meters. And then just the same with the other side. And then push the little caps back on, and that's basically it. Now it's pretty keen to try them out, pretty stoked to see if they would work or not. So I had to put the tire back on and then put the brakes back on. And then yeah, you can see this is initial kind of like shake felt pretty good. Had to pump up the tire to make sure that when I dropped it or when I was pushing down on it, it wasn't the tire that was taking the pressure. So I pumped my tire pretty hard just to see how the forks would work. And then yeah, just connecting the brake. I had to adjust the brake pads a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And then here's kind of the first test. You can see they're definitely on the stiffer side. So way stiffer than before, which I think is good. But they do actually go down a little bit. It might be hard to see, but once in slow-mo, you should be able to see that they actually go in. Yeah, just like that. So I'm excited to take them for a real test and give it a ride, see how it goes. So I took it for a little ride, and yeah, they feel pretty good. They are pretty stiff. If you had to compare them through kind of normal RockShox and rigid forks, I'd probably slide them closer to the rigid forks. When you're doing manuals and dropping off curbs, you definitely feel it, have a bit of give, but for yeah, for just normal riding, you definitely don't feel it at all. It might take some of the bumps off, but yeah, I can't really feel it that much. I think I could have gotten slightly softer bushings, but if I went too soft, then that becomes an issue straight away, because once they're too soft, then you can't really ride it. I'm pretty happy with how they are, just a bit harder than I expected. But yeah, these have no adjustments, of course. You really just got to change it. I think if you had adjustments, I would probably go softer, then you can kind of firm them up. But yeah, all in all, pretty happy with them. I rather like a stiffer fork than a softer fork, and got this bike going again. So yeah, hopefully if you're thinking about restoring old forks, hopefully this video helps. And thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.